because he realized that was working for him.
So we're all going to take a nap right now. So you at home, just be very quiet and put your head down, and we're all going to take a nap. And we here in the studio are going to take a nap too, right? Okay? So everyone put your head down on the tables, and let's all be quiet and take a nap. Come on, everybody. Little Susan and Phyllis and Mark and Jim, I see you now.
He was so successful up to that point. He had this group of different characters, and he had all the success from the Saturday Night Live performances, and he was on Taxi. And what does he go and do? This incredibly risky set of routines based on this professional wrestling performer dynamic.
And at the time, wrestling was still pretty much of a taboo issue. You know, it was off the beaten path. I mean, most people in show business avoided it like the plague. It still had all the old stereotypes. And most of Andy's friends were warning him, you know, you got to watch it. Don't get too involved with this thing.
Andy began wrestling women everywhere. In his concert performances, national television shows, even in restaurants and on airplanes. He proposed to open Andy Kaufman wrestling farms across the country.
I was always a fan of professional wrestling. Always loved it and watching it. And I saw Buddy Rogers wrestle once in person, and that was in 1963 when he lost his world title to Bruno Sammartino at Madison Square Garden. I was in 8th grade. I remember the frenzy that he brought to the audience, to the crowd. He was incredible. So what I wanted to do was recreate that in my act. You know, I would have to say all these nasty things about women just to get them to come on stage and just to define for the audience that the audience should be booing me.
While Andy was busy challenging women all over the country to wrestling matches, he discovered there were some very agreeable side benefits to his fame.
Andy Kaufman started wrestling, I think, from the beginning. As he told me, he said it was really hard for him to meet women.
Because Andy was a wallflower. He was a very shy guy, and he knew for a fact, and would be the first one to admit, if it wasn't for his celebrity, forget it, he never would have got laid.
Anytime he would meet a woman, he would be happy about it, but yet he didn't want to be involved. And that's the first thing he would say, don't get involved, don't fall in love with me. And sometimes that would, you know, they wouldn't like to hear that.
If the fan mail came in, and like, oh, I just think you're great, Andy. And if they sounded, first of all, if it came from a guy, it got thrown in the garbage can.
The ones that he would remain friends with were the girls who would play along and, you know, become part of Andy's traveling insanity.
I mean, he was, in the world of comedy, he was Hugh Hefner. You would never imagine it.
I always felt like Little Wendy and those TM people were like closer to him than, you know, any girl he was, you know, intimately involved with.
I mean, when he said he had this girlfriend, I go, what do you mean? You know, he actually settled down and had this girl, this lady that he loved and everything, and I just couldn't wait to meet her because it's like, you're kidding.
Andy really was kind of like a kid in the candy store with women. You know, since he got famous, he could have just about any woman he wanted, and he took full advantage of that, of course. Being Andy's girlfriend was challenging.
In the midst of all this madness, Andy began preparing for the biggest moment of his career.
One of the great events in Andy Kaufman's life was playing Carnegie Hall. I mean, it was a dream of his. And we stood opposite Carnegie Hall that afternoon, and he just looked at the entrance to Carnegie Hall, you know, the greatest edifice for performing art. And he said, I can't believe I'm playing in Carnegie Hall. He sang and he danced his heart out. He did the best Elvis he's ever done in his life.
When he did Elvis, it was like mass hypnosis. I mean, it might as well have been Elvis. I mean, you could hear a pin drop. Men and women were both weeping.
You found your sweetheart in the arms of your best friend. Brother, that's when your heart aches. Dig in. What are we going to have today? We're going to have milk and cookies.
And then at the end of the show, whatever audience was left, it was probably about 70%, filed out into these buses, They were bussed around in the pouring rain, and they were milk and cookies. And I just thought, I'm so grateful that I was there. I'm telling you, it was one of the great theatrical experiences of my life.
The show will continue tomorrow at 1 o'clock at the Staten Island Ferry.
All right.
And that's the other things. I mean, if Andy hadn't been a big star, obviously, he couldn't have done the Carnegie Hall show because, he paid for it out of his own pocket.
Andy Kaufman was at the peak of his popularity. His enormously successful Carnegie Hall concert and the airing of his previously unseen ABC special made his fans eager to see what this unpredictable entertainer would do next. But even Andy's admirers were shocked by the chaos he caused on the comedy show Fridays.
Hey, this is so much fun. It's so much fun. Come on. All right.
And they cut the commercial, and it was wild. It made headlines across the country. Every paper in every city said Andy Kaufman breaks out of a live show.
Why do you have to push this in my face? Why do you have to push this in my face? I'll put it all in your face.
Scene in the show. That's why.
Why? So what do you have to... Come on. Look, I'm just trying to... Everybody's so uptight around here. Everyone's so uptight around here. I don't understand.
Bobby, go to commercial, man.
What? Why do you have to be so uptight? What?
Work up to me. Come on, man.
Any confrontation to him was funny. He would laugh at you because you were getting angry at him, which of course could drive you insane.
I think he loved to see people just lose it, and just because it was good theater.
Andy, in essence, said, screw you, this is me, you can hate me. Did I get to you? Did I get to you? That was Andy, and more often than not, he did.
Andy never let you off the hook, Everybody else had an out. Hey, folks, that was a joke I just told. Andy went home, put his head on the pillow, and went to sleep knowing that most of the audience was going, he doesn't really feel that way, does he? That takes guts.
Tony Clifton was still out there causing trouble. In one notorious incident, he was invited to be the guest on the Dinah Shore show. Tony showed up drunk and proceeded to wreak havoc when he cracked raw eggs into Dinah's hair. Dinah had the footage burned.
He could not understand why you could do a movie and play a villain, and it's okay, but if you had a nightclub act, a stand-up act, you could not be a bad guy on stage. Couldn't understand it for the life of him, So he explored that. So then Tony Clifton was there, and Tony Clifton, oh my God, Tony Clifton would then go on Dinah Shore and get in a big fight with Dinah, and I was there. He did pour eggs over her head. It were dripping off the woman. Security was called. Tony Clifton was hauled out of the place and thrown out the front gate by the seat of his pants.
Tony Clifton opened for Rodney Dangerfield, and by the third night, Bill Graham had to put chicken wire up, to protect Tony Clifton, because people were throwing stuff at him.
By now, insiders in the industry played along with Andy's denial that he was Tony Clifton. Whenever Clifton appeared, there was an unspoken understanding that it was actually Andy Kaufman.
The reality is that most of the time, Tony Clifton was played by Andy Kaufman's writer, Bob Zmuda.
Kaufman's been using my name to get places.
And so there is no truth to the rumor that you're actually Andy Kaufman.
There's no truth to that rumor whatsoever. That's total fabrication on your part.
Well, no, I didn't. I mean, a lot of other people have said that.
Yeah, I know. Many people are saying that, but many people say a lot of things.
Andy was still the undefeated world intergender wrestling champion. But after more than 300 bouts, he felt that he needed a change of venue. He set his sights on the professional wrestling arena, and one wrestler in particular, Jerry Lawler. On April 5th, 1982, at the Mid-South Coliseum in Memphis, Tennessee, Andy took on Lawler in a very real wrestling match held before 10,000 bloodthirsty fans. They were not disappointed. They hated him. Lawler dropped Andy on his head in an illegal move called a pile driver, sending Andy to the hospital for 3 days. few months after the match, Andy and Lawler met up again on the David Letterman Show.
And to this day, I have no idea whether it was real or not. And the audience never knew whether it was real or not.
You are full of my friend. I will sue you for everything you have. I will sue you. You're a as far as I'm concerned. You hear me? I will get you for this.
I don't know if Lawler really knows. I'm sure Letterman doesn't know, and Andy may not know himself. That's the most amazing thing about it.